We are so thankful to have all of you with us today. We have a great presentation. Something that we were chatting about before everyone jumped on was just that what Robert is about to talk about applies to everyday life. So whatever you are trying to do, whether that is start a business or enhance the perception of your business, or even just interact with people, understanding how to understand the voice of the customer, that is going to be helpful to guide just everyday interactions. So we wanted to welcome everybody today. We have a wonderful presenter. So Robert Holmes is the founder and key advisor for Endo Marketing Group. He has owned several small businesses and has been a key commercial strategist for several startups. Most recently, he was a VP of marketing of a Fortune 500 company after holding VP roles in both sales and marketing. His broad-based experience includes software sales, product sales, franchise sales, management, and data compilation. Restaurants and more, sorry. Just have so much there, Robert, that I stopped reading. Robert's intensely creative approach to planning and challenge resolution enables him to add value to any business in any industry. He is highly skilled at developing efficient, highly functioning commercial teams that create solid front-end processes, workflows, and data gathering to enable the biggest bottom line impact. Robert has developed a highly capable group of partner organizations that provide more than just the ability to plan, but to help set the stage for execution. He stands on the firm belief that you cannot build cities with burned bridges and takes pride in lasting relationships. I have to say, just on a personal note, Robert and his team have been an amazing addition to the Delaware Entrepreneurial Center at Ohio Wesleyan. He has led with creativity, he's led with energy, and is a really huge asset to our group. I swear what I just read to you could not be closer to the truth of just creativity and energy. When you walk into his office, you just feel it just bubbling up. So I'm so excited to turn it over to Robert and let you take us from here.
You've obviously not been in my office lately because there's boxes everywhere. So,
I'm sure those are stemming from something creative.
They are. We have some good stuff going on. So thanks for the intro. That was amazing. Now I have to live up to it. So thanks for everybody joining us today. I really appreciate you taking time out to listen to this high-level presentation on voice of the customer, which is something that I feel is near and dear to my heart, because I know that it's really, truly a determining factor between having success and struggling. And honestly, it's one of those things that a lot of business people tend to overlook the importance of. They have a great idea. They love the concept of what they're doing. They run it by a few people and they say, let's go, right? And then they hit hurdles and they back up and they try and figure it out as they continue to move down the road. Nothing wrong with that, right? As entrepreneurs, we love to have challenges every day, and that will definitely create that for you. But I like to kind of strategically look at those challenges up front, understand them, so when you build an approach to a marketplace, that you have a good understanding before stepping in of what you're really stepping into. So I will start by saying, kind of going through this very simple. So what is VOC? Well, it's volatile organic compounds. At least that's what the chemical company is that I work with, Dynamic Green Products out of Houston. When I say VOC to Scott Porter, the CEO of that startup company, Scott gets all confused because he's, what are you talking about, VOC? What are you talking about, VOC? And I have to remind him that what I'm talking about is VOC, voice of the customer. And ultimately that is really where I want to talk about today. What I want to talk about today, I really want to talk about how important it truly is to gather this up front. We are in a situation in the world today that we have more capability of gathering voice of customer than we've ever had. It's just absolutely incredible how you can gather this information and do it in a way that the customer never even realizes it. Right? You used to have to sit down and have face-to-face conversations. You used to have to ask people to fill out the surveys. There's many different ways to gather it today, and we can kind of talk a little bit about that from that standpoint. I guess I got to click on this for it to advance. There we go. So why would you gather VOC? Well, really, businesses study voice of the customer by gathering various pieces of customer feedback And then you analyze it, right? What have my customers said? And really to identify trends in consumer behavior, preferences, companies, and preferences of the customer to purchase. And then ultimately what you want to do is to be able to gather this VOC so that it fits with a customer record. Because when marketers get really good and commercial teams get really good is when they truly can segment their customer base, and they can then turn that segmented customer base into the open marketplace, right? So when you can just say, I have a customer base, and out of my customer base, I see that 30% of those customer bases, maybe in the automotive industry, 30% of those customer bases, my customer base drives Fords, right? That's a pretty big high percentage. I'm going to go out and I'm going to do a program that's specifically around Ford, people who own Fords. I'm going to go find a list that I can get from Ford owners, or I'm going to do a partnership with Ford dealerships. And it allows you to begin to really segment based on the feedback that you're getting from that standpoint. It helps you really gather a much bigger, complete picture of your target audience. And I'll say it again, segment, and I'll say it again, segment, and I'll say it again, segment. It's really about defining who your customer is at the very smallest level and being able to reach out with messages that are really tailored and targeted towards them. So the mission for a VOC program is to, ultimately understand. I mean, that's it, right? Plain and simple, to understand. And whether you're doing a voice of the customer exercise with a current customer base, or whether you're doing a voice of customer base exercise with an open market that you've defined as your target, right? It's really about understanding, okay? And effective listening to the voice of the customer involves being concerned, right? Really trying to be empathetic and understand your customer's viewpoint. Installing effective feedback tools, right? Survey Monkey or any of the survey tools that are out there today. There's lots of survey tools. Most of the CRM systems are out there today have for survey capability that you can pull right into your customer records. Understanding your customers and their complaints. I worked with a team just recently. We're launching a survey today with a company in San Francisco. I'm actually flying out there tomorrow, but we're launching a survey today. And as I was going through this with the team, we're developing the question set, and I'm developing with them, what are we trying to achieve? What are we trying to learn? And a couple of times, a couple of team members were like, "Ooh, I don't want to ask that." And I said, "Why?" Well, I mean, they're not going to be happy with that. Well, that's what we want to know, right? That's what we want to know. I want the good and I want the bad, because when I solve the bad, that's how the company gets better, right? And so again, it's really doing what you can, getting involved personally. I love that one, right? Because along with the project I'm launching right now with this company out in California, is that we're going to launch the survey, but then I'm going to handpick customers from our customer outreach list, and I'm going to do a Zoom meeting, one a day at least, while the program runs for the next 4 weeks, so that I can have not only the quantitative information from the survey, but I can have the qualitative information from a direct face-to-face feedback. I can record them on Zoom. I can look at body language and understand how people truly feel. I can dive into deeper questions when I see that, they cringe when I ask a question before they answer it, and I can understand why that cringe is happening. So all of that is just super, super important to being successful. All right, so the goal of this is to understand your customer's perception, right? We all have that great personal perception of things, right? Our customers are the same way. We have to understand today, how do they perceive things? And many times we think about, how do they perceive the pepperoni I put on my pizza? We'll talk about pizza here in a second. You'll see where I'm going. But the reality is, right, it may be bigger than that, right? It may be, we may need to be much more wide open other than asking about something particular on a product that we're serving. Or is serving the product even right? Kind of a thing. So we have to really understand, how does the customer currently think? And then you have to really define, how do I need the customer to think, right? To get adoption and purchase. Let's face it, we're all in business to do one thing, right? To get people on our side. Whether that means they make a purchase from us and buy something for us, they join our team, right? It's about adoption and purchase. And so I call that a transaction at some point, whether that's signing the paper and saying I'm on board with you, or whether that's coming in and saying, here's my credit card. Okay. But in order for you to get to how do I need the customer to think without knowing how does the customer currently think is a very big challenge, right? So, I can say all day long, Mr. Flaherty, I want you to buy this blue paint gun. I really want you to buy this blue paint gun. And here it is. And I want you to buy it. And I don't know that that Steve, right, he doesn't like blue. He hates blue, right? He hates that color. He thinks it's cheap. It looks cheap, right? But I didn't know that. I just went and made a blue paint gun because I like blue, right? And now I want him to buy it, and he's going, I don't know, right? But I never knew, right, that the majority of the customers out there, including Steve, don't like blue. So, that's the work you need to do up on the front, right? So you understand. So determine what it is you want to know for a number of different reasons, right? For market acceptance, product improvement ideas, satisfaction, needed areas of improvement. So you see a lot of surveys that go out in the customer service world. And if you ever have a phone conversation with somebody and they answer the phone, hey, before you have the phone, can I get you to answer this? Because they want to know how they did in that job right then and there. There's a lot more we need to know from our customer than just that. But satisfaction surveys are very, very important. Right? Did I do my job well? And what is it that I need to do better in the future? And then value perception. This is one that I do with companies a lot. And I think it's a big opportunity for companies to do a lot better. And that is, what do companies perceive as valuable? Not necessarily as it relates to your product, but anything, right? What is their value perception, right? And what do they perceive as valuable, so that you can then turn your product, your messaging, your pitch, so that it aligns with their value perception, right? So if you're targeting something, especially if it's a very, very narrow target, right, you should be able to understand, right, in that segment related to what you're doing, what do they really truly perceive as valuable? Any questions so far? I'm rolling. Okay. All right. So determine meeting for gathered data. And this is what we were talking about before. There's so much opportunity to get feedback these days. It's just incredible. Email survey is one that's an easy one. And I'll be honest with you, emails have fallen down on the scale of response rates from a survey standpoint. You get a very low response rate, but it's still something you should do. Web surveys, right? Put your survey right on the website, have it pop up in a little box and say, hey, please, we can use your help. And then social media. Social media is a big one because you can disguise your voice gathering efforts as a conversation, right? It doesn't have to be a survey, and you can certainly just throw out questions out there and get responses from your customer base or responses from your prospects with social media. And that's a big one. And then the ability of social media to tie in the background, to be able to pixel websites and understand not only did they answer that question, but then I put a link in there and they went over here and they viewed that. And here's the heat map that I followed them on the website. Now this is where they clicked, and I know that this is what they were interested in and this is where they went away, right? And you can follow that journey incredibly and really understand what people's perception is. Determine incentives. So if you're going to run a program, there's got to be some level of incentive to get people to give you this information. The days of just people taking their own time to fill out a survey for you are probably gone, right? And so there's got to be some incentive that gets them to slow down and to give you the feedback. For instance, the program that I'm doing now for the company that I'm working with now is they're a supercharger company. They make superchargers for cars. And so the survey we're doing now is get a chance to win all this cool swag, hats, shirts, beer koozies, all the cool stuff you want with the name of the company on it. And so, you come in there and you say, hey, I want to win that stuff. Let me take 2 minutes, right, to do this. And you got to make your surveys short, fast, quick. But you've got to, turn it from survey to you're helping me. And that's a big one that I've learned over the last few years, is that surveys have gotten kind of worn out, right? So I eliminate the word survey completely from anything that I do outbound. Feedback, we want your opinion, help us, help you, that kind of language will get people to reach into it, right, and be compassionate and want to participate. Properly analyze results, that's a big one. It'll be different every time based on what you're gathering, and then ultimately implement your learning. And I'll be honest with you, I see companies oftentimes do a really good job on steps 1 through 4, right? They understand, that, hey, look, I want to know how to be better accepted in the market. I'm going to do this email survey. I'm also going to put something on a website. I'm going to do social media posts, and they put an incentive out there. They get lots of data. They analyze the results. They see it. They go over it in their op plan meetings, and they talk about it in their strategic planning sessions, and then it goes away. It never gets implemented, right? It never gets used to do something. So it's key that when you finish your voice of the customer, that you've got a plan to do something with it. All right, so this is a little example. I love pizza. Lots of people love pizza. And this is Joey's Pizza and Pasta. And Joey wants to know, right, how he can do things better. What do you think are some of the questions that Joey would ask in a survey? So he's come up with a creative idea to put a contest on the lid of his pizza boxes, and it's got a barcode on there, or a QR code that people can go take the survey. What questions? Just throw out some questions that Joey might want to ask. Come on.
How about if customers like thin or thick crust?
That'd be a good one. That'd be a good one for sure.
Quality of the ingredients.
What is it?
Excuse me. Quality of the ingredients.
Quality of the ingredients. Asking if what they're putting on there are quality. Do they like them? Kind of thing. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? No one likes pizza.
Maybe how often they eat the pizza or order the pizza.
That's a good one. That's a good one. All right. Now, what would you do with that information, Elena?
Maybe tailor almost specials to around if there's a weekend special. I would say maybe something along those lines if they weren't the ones to win the pizza.
Yep.
How about how they ordered it? So did they call it in, or did they do it online, or something like that?
That's a good one. That's
How
a good
did they hear about Joey's Pizza? Social media, email, mail?
Yep, that's a good one too. Those are all good questions. So oftentimes, and I put that little question on the bottom, would you relate the questioning to your current offering, right? So this is oftentimes what happens when we go out and we survey and we begin to gather voice of the customer. We say, this is what I have, right? Do people like what I have? And we begin to ask questions about what I have, okay? But what we really want to know is, what do they want, right? So ultimately, right, we want to think about, number one, what are we trying to understand from the customer? And what we're trying to truly understand from the customer, right, is what excites them, right? And sometimes, as good as we are in business, we don't have anything that excites them, right? But we tend to typically say, okay, I'm going to go ask about this, and because this is what I have, and I'm going to see how I make this better because this is what I have today, versus saying, okay, I need to understand what they value when they order pizza, right? And what is the estimated time you like to wait if you order pizza for delivery, right? What, those kind of things, right? They're completely outside of, right, your current offering. That's where you tend to get value. Now, you boil that down, right, in time to your current offering, right? But you start out by saying, do I have the right offering? Does that make sense? I see lots of heads nodding. So it all starts with asking yourself, what do I need to know, right? And if you go back to the slide that I showed you, right, it's all about, what excites my customer the most, what does my customer perceive as value, what aggravates my customer, right? You want to know what aggravates them. What does my customer like most about us, right? So you always want to know, right, what we're doing good, right? But you want to know what excites them the most. Not necessarily excites them the most about your offering, right? But what are the things that excites them the most? You know, what do they get excited about? And pizza in general, right? Not about Papa John's pizza, right? But what's the most thing you like about ordering pizza or fast food or whatever it is, right? And what excites you most? Because you may find something that you're not doing today that you should be doing based on this, okay? All right, so if you have an understanding of how the customer currently thinks, okay, and then you have an understanding of how you need the customer to think to create adoption and purchase, what happens in the middle of that is marketing and commercial activities. That's what bridges the gap. So what you're trying to do here is understand, right, my customer's perception as it exists today, right, and then understand how do I get them to think the way that I need them to think to make it profitable for me, okay? And the middle part is the work, right? And this is that action part when you're done analyzing the VOC. Okay, this is where all of the energy goes. For instance, go back to the blue. Steve doesn't like blue, right? But I need to get him to a point where he likes paint guns, right? And that's where I need him to be. That he understands the value of my paint gun, and he understands that this is a high-end product. And I find out that he doesn't like blue, and my gun is blue, right? I've got to make some changes, right? Or I got to convince him that blue is okay, right? And that could be done, right? That can be done. And so marketing comes in and says, okay, how do I convince the third of my audience that doesn't like blue, and I have $100,000 of inventory of blue guns? How do I convince them, and how do I drive messaging to them that makes them feel differently about the blue? Okay, but if you don't understand those two things to begin with, right, you'll never be able to do it. And all you'll keep going out there is saying, buy my blue gun, buy my blue gun, buy my blue gun, buy my blue gun, right? Versus saying, you know what, here's why we're blue, right? And blue represents this, represents that, whatever it is, right? Some great grandiose story about being blue and how blue is tremendous, right? And it really, oftentimes storytelling is marketing, right? It's about coming up with a story that's creative and how you got to be blue, right? And then all of a sudden the blue has a different perception. It's all about effectively influencing thoughts and the behavior of an audience to get them excited, and get them excited about the benefits your product or service can provide, right? That's what marketing is. And without VOC, you just simply have a hard time understanding what you're going to get, how you're going to get that group excited. I mean, how do you do it without understanding, right, their perception today? Does it make sense? Makes sense? All right. So effective influence is only capable if you know where someone stands and knows where you need them to stand. I went through that really quick. So what do you guys have from a question standpoint? Because I can go really, really, really deep, and I hit it on a very high level. But hit me with what you want to know more about voice of the customer.
Robert, I think, from my experience, one of the things, when you had those the 5 points kind of outlined, you said, companies usually do a good job of 1 through 4, and falter on the 5th one. I also see a lot of time 4, and that's analyzing the information. I look into what we currently do. None of us on our alumni relations team are experts in analyzing the data when it comes in. So I think that's a challenge, and even sometimes crafting the survey the right way, asking the right questions. I'd love to hear more on that, or where, what are some resources that, if we don't have those experts on our team, where do we go to kind of learn more, engage others? Awesome. Do we?
I think maybe Robert was taking off his shared screen.
No,
Robert,
I'm
are
not
you
sure
still with us?
I'm here,
There you
but I'm
go.
not sure what happened. It just kind of went away. Yeah, well, we can just talk through this. But yeah, no, here's the challenge with that I see people doing a lot with the analysis part of it. The analysis starts in the development of the survey. It's all about understanding, what am I truly trying to gather? And if you understand what you're truly trying to gather and understand, right, then the analysis part gets easy and exciting, right? Because when you're answering that question, it's something that you've thought through and you know exactly what you're trying to achieve and what you're trying to get out of that question. Many times people put surveys together and they just kind of throw questions in there because they just want the feedback, right? And you should be thinking about the survey questions as the survey is developed as to what the action is you're going to take at that time you're developing the questions, right? Many times people don't get that level, right? They're just trying to gather information. So when it comes back, it's all good information, but they haven't thought about through the process, what are the things that we would do if we get this information and it says this,
right?
So all of that has to really happen in the front end of the survey, and it's really not that difficult. It's common sense, right? It's common sense, and it does take time to slow down. It does take collaboration amongst teams, right? But we tend to overthink and try to gather too much because we think about gathering the data and instead of thinking about taking action, right? And we all know we can't take action on everything we want to do, right? And so we should approach a survey in the same fashion, right? We should approach the gathering of VOC in the same fashion. If I can only do 3 things, right, I need to know what those 3 things are, right? So I'm going to develop the 3 things based on the actions that I believe are the right things to take for the organization, and gather the data that I need to do that. For instance, I have 6 boxes sitting outside my office right now that Madison Bridger helped me pack up today, and they are going out to a national sales team. And I could have absolutely signed this national sales team up and said, "Here, you guys, I'm going to sign this contract with you. Go out there and do it. I'm going to send you some product. Go try to sell it," right? But that's not the approach that we took. The approach that we took was, I'm going to put some boxes together for you, and before we sign the contract, I'd like each one of your managers in your regions to go have conversations with your top 4 customers to understand their perception of the product, right? And then gave them some questions to ask that we can pull that data back in. And then both of us, the sales team that I'm going to hire and us as the manufacturer, are going to be in a much better situation because before we ever step down having sales conversations, we have some education on what the customers truly want to see. Okay. That makes sense?
Yep.
All right. What else can I help with? Yep.
Yeah, I'm curious about tips you might have. This relates to, at the very beginning of this, you were talking about how some folks are hesitant to ask questions that will likely receive some negative feedback. And I think I've been in situations before where I'm kind of trying to coach somebody else on putting together some of that information gathering. And they have been hesitant to ask those questions because they don't want to see the negative. They just want kind of the safer questions. So I'm curious, from your perspective and all the work that you've done, any tips you have for somebody like me in those roles, or any of us on the call here, how to coach other people to not be defensive? Because I think that's the next step then. Like, if I'm able to kind of convince somebody to ask those tough questions, I notice then that when we start getting things back, even when we kind of expected it, it's like that instant defense mechanism. And I know as leaders and whatnot, we have to really work with people on that, but I'm just curious from your perspective and experience, what you can share there.
Yeah. So that's a challenge one. And I say it all the time that business would be easy if it wasn't for people. And I mean, we're all human, right? We have emotions. And of course, when we pour our heart and passion into something and somebody doesn't like it, it hurts, right? It's personal. It's hard not to take it personal. And for some people more than the other. But the reality is that you have to convince the parties that you're coaching right? That gathering this information is as absolutely as valuable as the successes, if not more. And I always kind of go back to personal stories about, when coaching somebody is about, here's where I failed, and I had a business venture that failed miserably, but here's what I learned from it, right? And I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't have that failure, right? So I want you to understand from other people, right, where we're going wrong today, so that we can make sure that we're not in that mode, right, of completely failing, that we're making adjustments in this business and doing the right thing. One of the things that you just got to encourage not to take it personally, right, and to be able to have those conversations and understand that it's not them throwing darts at you individually. It's a process. Again, everybody has their own perspective. And without understanding that perspective, we're not going to win. And so we got to slow down and kind of be able to take that on the chin and move forward. It's actually recently I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at it. I work with a company called DGP, and I've been doing these videos down in downtown Delaware with their hand sanitizer product. And I just go walk around downtown Delaware and squirt it in their hands. And my son follows me with a video camera. And so it's been really eye-opening to him, because, you'll walk up to somebody and give the pitch. Hey, we've developed this company. I work with this company out of Houston. They developed a hand sanitizer. It has plant-based products. It feels completely like a hand sanitizer. Today I'm just getting a reaction of people putting it on their hands. Would you participate? And people go, no, I'm in the middle of a conversation. I mean, I'd rather not talk to you right now, and there's people like that, right? And I'm like, okay, sorry to bother you. I appreciate it. And it was eye-opening. And he'd be like, Dad, what, that guy was a jerk. Are you kidding me? Right. And you just have to blow it off, right? That's not the goal, right? That's not the goal, right? What you've got to do is stay focused on the goal, which is improving your business operation, right? And stay focused on the goal. Negativity will help you reach that goal, right? Understanding where people aren't happy will help you reach that goal. So just completely understand the goal.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else? Mr. Brian, you were awful quiet today.
I'm just sitting back enjoying your presentation, sir.
Everything okay? You good?
Everything's great. Thank you.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. Any other questions?
Well, seeing no other questions, I just want to thank you, Robert. This was really enjoyable and definitely something that we can all learn from. As I was sharing with you prior to this, I personally love the mix of business with psychology. I mean, it's something that no matter what field you're in, just even in your daily life, your interactions with others, this is a type of topic that applies. Just even understanding kind of what do I need to know rather than just gathering information just to gather information. That's great just for kind of across the board. So Thank you so much for sharing with us, for walking us through this. I encourage all of you to go visit Robert over at the Entrepreneurial Center. He and his team, as I mentioned, are doing amazing things, growing even during the pandemic, which is amazing. And really helping us create this really powerful entrepreneurial ecosystem. So thank you, Robert. Thank you for your time. Thank all of you for being on today and learning with us. We do have a few more events coming up, one towards the end of October, all about bootstrapping, and then in November about personal cybersecurity. So we hope that you will keep an eye out for those and join us then and come and visit us at the center. So thank you so much. I'm sure that if we have any further questions, we can get those over to Robert, and Robert will get them back out to everybody else too.
Sounds good. Thank you all.
Great.
Thanks,
Thank
Robert.
you.
Thanks, Megan.
Bye now.
Thanks, Robert.